Donatelli, host of Reader Seeks Romance, a romance novel talk show that features entertaining interviews with authors, publishing insiders, and in today's episode, romance fiction influencer Bridget Chun, co-host of Romance at a Glance podcast. Bridget and I chatted about the secret baby trope, book covers, hot reads and cold showers, and more. And because this is Thanksgiving week, I didn't use a script for my intro, so I have recorded and re-recorded this intro many times. Happy Thanksgiving and enjoy the episode. Hi, Bridget. How are you?
Hi. I'm so good. It's so nice to see you. How are you?
Thank you for joining me on Reader Seeks Romance.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Tell me about your podcast, Romance at a Glance.
Absolutely. So on Romance at a Glance, Shawnee, my co-host, and I, we do all genres of romance. So we break it up into themes for each season. We just did historicals. The season before that was contemporary. Then we did Black Dagger Brotherhood. We're about to launch into our holiday mashup season. So basically we're going through the whole fall. So we're going to hit like some Halloween paranormals. We're going to hit some Navy SEALs for Veterans Day. We're going to hit into like our Thanksgiving country boys, down home boys for Thanksgiving, and a couple holiday romances to round out the season. Shawnee, we met working on some other projects in LA, and just kind of like one of those, like you click Insta friendships. And we decided, she was coming over to visit my babies because she loves babies. And my kid was about 6 months old, and we were just, having lunch, and she was holding the baby while I was, like showering and cooking and like taking care of myself for a bit. And we just started talking about books we're reading. Then she was tentatively like, so I read this romance novel. And I was like, which one? Tell me the author. And then we just spent like 3 hours just talking about romance. And she called me that night and said, so I have a 10-part reason why we should start a romance podcast. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I didn't need any convincing. I was like, that sounds like the best idea ever. I love reading books. I love reading romance books. Like, I love talking. Like, let's do it. So that's kind of how we started. We probably had about from February until like September before we were launching. So we went through and we listened to a bunch of different podcasts. We, just kind of figured out like, oh, what stuff did we like from them? What stuff did we want to talk about? Like what order we kind of wanted to go through the books. And then we just filmed a couple tests, recorded a couple test episodes, read some books, and just did like, some of them did not make airing, and some of them we like re-recorded once we kind of solidified. We love like storytelling. I would say the story is for sure the most important thing for us. Is it a good story? But we, and of course the sex, obviously, me and Shawnee are very into the sex. Is it a good story, and is the sex good? But we also, just like pick books like everyone, look on the shelves, and we see, oh, that's a nice cover, and buy the book because of that. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that. And we always have favorite lines from the books. And so we were like, oh, let's just talk about all the stuff. And we always kind of equate it to our own lives and tell our own romantic stories and relationship advice and get on our soapboxes and give a lot of life lessons. So it's a fun show.
You deliver honest reviews on the show. Has being honest ever caused any problems among romance readers or authors? And you don't have to name names, but does that, do you get any grumbling from the community?
So I think probably we're too small yet to get a lot of grumbling because we're growing very quickly, but we're still new. So it's not like we have, we're like one of the top 2 romance novel podcasts that everyone is listening to. We have had a couple authors send us like YouTube comments or comments on things like, your review's so mean, like I'm just a mom writing books, or we had one that said that. We've had a couple of people tell us we're savages. We want people who come and watch and listen to our podcast rather. We want them to know, like, if we give it 5 stars, this book is if we give it 4 stars, you're going to love it. If we give it 3 stars, this is a solid book in its genre. If we give it 2 or 1, it's terrible, don't read it. But like, there's a lot of books that like will have tons of 5-star reviews and they're like, it's so 5 stars. I love everything about it. It does have a few problems, but 5 stars. And I'm like, well, if it has a few problems, it should at least be 4. I'm not saying you should give it a 1 necessarily. You can come here and we're not going to lie to you. We're not going to like get gifted some books from a publisher and then give that book 5 stars because we want more books from that publisher. The harder part I find is that we really like the authors when we do the interviews. We love them. They're so diverse, not only in like obviously the way they look or their ages, but also just the way they think, the way they write, the way they do things. And we like them so much. And then sometimes, it's hard to, like, you don't want to hurt their feelings. However, me and Shani are also creators. So Shani's a music artist and YouTuber. I'm a writer and also a film, short film creator and stuff like that. So like we're also creatives, and we know that when you put out creative work, you're gonna get opinions. That's just how it is. And so we've developed a very thick skin about people criticizing our work and our podcast. Even like if people do criticize it, like that's their right and that's part of it. Some people will love us, some people will not love us, and that's just the way it is. So I kind of feel like if you're an author, you just, not everyone's going to like your book, and we may not like your book, and that may be okay because it might be for other people.
So how many books do you read in a week?
It depends on what we have going on. I mean, I would say for sure 2 as like a baseline. And then if we have like a bunch of interviews coming up, or like, oh, we have to record a bunch of episodes, like I might read 4 to 6, but that like 6 would be a really busy reading week for me.
Wait, 6 a week?
Yeah, that would be only if I like like I get really obsessed. Like I'll just like read, oh, I love that book, and I'll just go roll right into the next one.
Okay, yeah.
But that would be like unusual. I think in like March or April when COVID started and I hadn't left my house literally at all for the whole month.
Yeah.
I think I read like 16 books because I was like, what else am I doing? I can't go anywhere or do anything. So I just read some books. But I would say usually I read probably like 8 to 12 a month.
Okay. And you sleep a full 8 hours every night?
I do. I read quite fast. And I also read like, this is like part of my job now that I've like because I was already a work from home, like creative writer and writer and stuff. So I now have carved out. So, if my kids are at daycare, I might only work on like the computer, let's say for 2 or 3 hours that day. And the other 5 hours I'll read a book that I need to like write a review of or write, whatever, something. So, and then also, at night they go to bed early and, like I obviously hang out with my husband sometimes, but, we can't like go see friends. We can't go to events. We can't do anything. So it'll be interesting to see when we go back, like when COVID vaccines are out and everything kind of goes back towards a little bit more of like a social sort of thing. I'll still for sure read 4. I'll probably read like 4 to 8 versus 8 to 12 probably.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay. I feel like a slacker. What does a book cover need to have on it for you to want to read it?
Naked people are always a delight. I love a rippling ab or back or forearm just as much as the next reader. Visually, I just like a well thought out cover. Like I want it to feel like the genre. So if I'm reading a historical, like for instance, The Bride we're about to read, it's a beautiful cover. It has the tartan at the bottom, the little like circle in the middle. You look through, she's running through the Highlands and you're like, ooh, I know what we're getting. I love it so much. And, but we also are doing like work for it. For instance, he's like strong and he's like flexing, he's all tan, and you're like, okay, yes, I would like to be a part of this. So it depends on the genre. I'm not super into illustrated covers. I understand the marketing reasons why they are a thing right now. They're reaching a wider audience because they don't look as much like quote unquote romance novels, so I understand. I would prefer it to be, even if it wasn't a like bodice rippery sort of rippling muscles, like I would still prefer it to be like a real scene or like a picture of a beautiful castle or something.
What is your favorite trope?
This is always a hard one for me.
Well, you could pick more than one favorite if that makes it easier.
I do love to pick more than one thing. I always pick more than one favorite line out of a book, and Shani always makes fun of me for it. Let's see, my favorite tropes. So I enjoy forced proximity. I think that's fun. Fake dating, when it's done right, can be so fun, especially if we get to like go along, and we're like in the caper with them, kind of like that for me can be really fun. Basically any trope where you get to feel like I get to feel like I I'm sort of a part of something, or like one of the characters, like something's going on and there's like some repartee or there's some tension there. Like, enemies to lovers can be good, but for me, I struggle if it's like, yeah, but that person's like a piece of you know what I mean? Like, that's a struggle for me. If two characters hook up in the book, like in the past, because the book is in the present, and in the past, he doesn't know there's a baby. So now he's going back to his hometown, or he's going back to like wherever, or they run into each other in the future and she has a baby. And it turns out it's his. That would be a secret.
I thought it was the couple meets and the woman's already pregnant from someone else. And then she's like, oh, surprise, I'm having a baby from someone else. Is that okay with you?
I don't think so.
So that's something else. Maybe I've created something new. A new term.
Yeah.
Tattooed biceps on a man or a woman.
In real life, don't like them like on my sexual partner. So, but in books, I think it's hot.
Curious scars on a man or a woman, because there's always at some point like a scar. Where'd it come from?
Cold shower. I don't care that much about that.
First thing in the morning, tongue kisses.
I mean, I'm assuming both characters are into it and they're about to bang, so hot, I'm into it. Again, this is a book. This is not real life. We don't know what their breath smells like. They might have nice breath. Maybe they took a sip of water. We don't know.
Love in an elevator. And that love could be anything. Okay. Snowed in, forced proximity. Specifically snowed in. Okay.
Hot, because you got to keep warm. What are you going to do? There's nothing. You're chilly, It's a breath. You have a blankie. You need... Mm-hmm.
Mafia protection. So there's a mobster taking a young woman into his protection. Is that a hot read or is that a cold shower?
So I think it depends on how it's done, because I've read them where it's just not good as a book.
Yeah.
Because if you have if you have the mafia element, like I want it to be like John Wick, where the world is really rich and there's all these weird secret things, and like we can't talk to him because he's the head of this family, and like there's just like all these wheelings and dealings. So part of that for me is the world with which the two of them are trying to survive, and then that brings them closer together because they're trying to survive in this bigger ecosystem. I don't think it works that well if it's very narrow on the two of them, because I'm like, there's really not. I'm like, okay, well, it's like someone protecting someone. Like that's kind of boring after 100 pages.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. This was super fun.